Hey, thanks for joining me. Today we're honoring history and celebrating a little absurdity. This piece is a tribute to award-winning artist Stan Sakai, whose Usagi Yojimbo universe has inspired generations. I'll be painting the anthropomorphic rhino Gennosuke Murakami, the only way that I can, with a little respect and playful creativity this kind of character deserves. Psycho! Let's go. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. This is Arts of the Round Table. My name is Mello. Happy holidays, everybody. Merry Christmas. I hope you're doing well, staying warm and enjoying the company of loved ones. One of the best memories that I have as a kid is sitting crisscross applesauce on the floor, sketchbook or comic book in my hand, or glued to Saturday morning cartoons. I would just get lost in those wild, absurd stories filled with amazing characters. And I promised myself back then that no matter what path life took me on, I would try and not forget those moments filled with pure imagination and wonder. Now, as an artist, as an adult, I get the pleasure of reimagining some of my favorite characters, honoring their origins while still finding joy in making them my own. Now, I wasn't actually introduced to Gennosuke when I was a kid. I knew of Usagi Yojimbo because of his appearance in the Ninja Turtles cartoons of the late 80s, but I had no clue of this character or the amazing world he lived in. I fell into them later on in life as a student of art, experiencing the stories and adventures for myself. I have developed the most esteemed admiration for the world Stan Sakai created in his Usagi Yojimbo saga. The characters, the history, the beauty in its absurdity, it's outstanding, and it stays with you no matter when you discover it. In this video, I will be sharing my full creative process, bringing one of my favorite characters of that world, Gennosuke Murakami, to life in gouache. And as I dive in, let's take a quick look at the tools and a bit of history of this character. Gennosuke was modeled after one of the greatest Japanese actors of all time, Toshiro Mifune, known for being a frequent collaborator with one of the greatest Japanese directors of all time, Akira Kurosawa. In one of those movies they collaborated on was 1961's Yojimbo, and it's there where this character is directly inspired from. In Stan Sakai's stories, Gennosuke often plays opposite Usagi Yojimbo's straight man persona. So where Usagi is steady and disciplined, Gennosuke, or Genno from here on out, is a bounty hunter, a wild card, a scoundrel of course, but one filled with honor. And those dynamics are what make him so much fun to draw. Speaking of, the drawing. I start, like all of my drawings, very light, very sketchy. I'm simply measuring myself and the page. I know that I'm going to focus exclusively on the face and the helmet, so I wanted to at least make the pose fairly simple, which is a side profile. In preparing for this piece, I went back to the source, reading some of the stories, studying Master Sakai's vision of the character, and appreciating the way he's brought to life on the page. But for me, of course, I wanted to make it difficult. I decided to take a slightly more realistic approach than what was in the comics. That meant pouring through pictures of real rhinos to capture their strength and their texture, and studying intricate details of Edo period samurai helmets. The research was an absolute pleasure. I came out of there with a ton of ideas for future projects, and more importantly, it gave me even more respect for the layers behind this character. The base of the drawing is done, and now it's time to really dig in. My intention was always going to be the paint, but I wanted the drawing itself to push me further than I've ever gone before. If I thought my Magneto piece and the drawings before it were my watermark, I wanted this one to be miles above it. That meant pouring some serious time and attention into his face. Wrinkles, textures, stubble, hair, his horns, while not ignoring the helmet. Every ridge, plate, stitch needed the same attention. My goal was to push realism onto an unrealistic character, and your boy was locked in. In my last few videos, my portrait drawings were full of wrinkles and hyper detail. Those pieces gave me the confidence to tackle this one. And if you get encouraged and you want to tackle something like this, I wanted to show you how I approached creating those details on those drawings and on this one, so it doesn't feel or appear overwhelming. The end result looks complicated and daunting, but with a little bit of planning and this one important key, you're going to be all right. Okay, so assuming the initial drawing of the face, animal, or the subject you're working on is done. And here are the steps. You start with a light, uneven scribbles, even jagged marks lightly along the contours of the face. Don't worry about perfection, just create a random roadmap following, and this is the key, following the rhythms and the forms of what you're working on. Then, using a tissue or cotton swab like I do, lightly rub the pencil marks gently over everything. Don't even sweat it. And if that's too much, if it looks too much, it feels too much, do it on a smaller section. Let it settle and then take a good look. Looking at the image, you would have created many little shapes of length and sizes like puzzle pieces. This is where the planning comes in. Based on the light source of your drawing, use your eraser or a kneaded eraser, doesn't even matter. You could even use a number 2 pencil, anything small for now. And looking at those little shapes that you created, picturing them as individual pieces, begin to erase lightly on the side that your light would touch first. The closer those little pieces are to the light, erase a bit more. The further away, erase a bit less. You start small, working in sections at first, then expand as the drawing begins to gain shape and volume and you and confidence. And if something looks off, you just go back over it with a swab or a tissue to fill in what you removed, and you try again. It's a simple process, but it builds depth and realism slowly without the pressure of getting everything right on the first pass. And you can work it as much as or as little as you want, whatever fits the desired result you're looking for. Just after every pass, if you need to, rework the lines that you want to be more dominant. This technique doesn't just provide great variety for wrinkles. I used the same approach when rendering the helmet, but imagine for a moment that same process on leather, rocks, walls, roads. The possibilities are endless, but the key always remains: follow the flow or rhythm of the form. So give it a shot, see what you discover, and share your experiences in the comments below. I would love to hear how you make this your own. Also, if what I just said made absolutely no sense, let me know that too, and I will create a more detailed breakdown in a future video. The drawing is done, sealed, and gessoed, and we are ready to paint. After doing all that drawing, I didn't want to lose any of the detail during the wash, so I went super duper light with the underpainting. In hindsight, I probably could have gone a bit darker with that wash, but I wanted to preserve the details of the pencils, and I didn't want to lose or muddle the piece by painting over and then searching for those lines again. So I had an idea. After building my palette, putting in my wash, I reached for the darkest tone and treated the HIMI gouache like ink. And I went straight for the eye. There's a lot happening in this small space, and it can easily turn into sensory overload. Your eyes start bouncing around because every detail is demanding attention. To anchor the viewer, I wanted the eye to stand out, not as a distraction but as a guide. I made the decision to match his eye color with his helmet. That simple choice will pay off in the finished painting as it will create visual rhythm. The eye is done, the anchor's in place. It was time to ink the rest of the face with gouache. I worked slowly and deliberately, feathering in the lighter details. The gouache at this stage was pretty watered down. The advantage is that I can still see the tonal values of the pencils underneath because of the transparency of the paint, and I can clearly see the underdrawing, which was very helpful. And this is also where my past experience really came into play. All those earlier paintings where I relied heavily on brush pens this year really paid off. That muscle memory transferred directly into the brush. What began with a little hesitancy quickly shifted into a kind of a meditative state. Steady hands, calm focus, working slowly, enjoying each line. Clearly, a moment of Zen. Moving along with the rest of the painting, these first layers of gouache remain extremely watery, deliberately so. I wanted the layers to merge, bleed, and blend with a kind of chaotic freedom. Gouache, when handled like this, becomes unpredictable. It creates a texture and accidents that you could never plan for, and that's exactly what I was looking for. For the helmet, I didn't want a brand new, polished piece of armor that looked like it just had come off from the shelf. By letting my colors work into each other, it allows them to dry in streaks, blooms, and patterns that mimic weathered wood or cracked lacquer. And then later, I can lean into those marks with additional layers of color so I can emphasize the rivets, scratches, and the dirt and grime that cling after years in the field. I'm using broad, uneven strokes here and grabbing colors from my whole palette, but I'm keeping in mind a few things: the direction of the small paneling that makes up the helmet and its curvature. But more importantly, I'm reminding myself, don't do too much here. This is not the final pass. I can't stress enough, when using gouache, it is extremely important to let those first layers dry properly. I don't want future layers to reactivate more than they need to when I'm going over them. By far, taking my time has been the most important lesson I've learned throughout the year. Working in sections, it's now time to start laying down the base color for the face. I begin with grayish blue tones for the shadows and light grays for the mids. Still working wet on wet, I drop in subtle dabs of warm colors, just enough to seep and blend into the cooler tones. Those little bursts of warmth break up the static nature of the grays and make the cold tones around them feel even sharper and more realistic. From here on out, the process remains the same. Layer after layer of color, adding specular highlights and richer pigments to bring depth and life to the surface. Each stroke becomes less about technique and more about feeling, guiding the piece towards its final form. To frame it all, I use pure blacks around the face, deepening the shadows and creating bold outlines, a nod to his comic book roots. That sharp rhythm between realism and stylization pulls everything together. It's my way of honoring where he came from while still grounding him in the more painterly world that I've been exploring. From this point forward, it's all about refinement, adding, subtracting, blending, stepping back, and letting the process take over. Before we move to the final reveal, I just wanted to take a moment to say from the bottom of my heart, thank you. This may very well be my last full narrative video of 2025. I really can't believe it. And I can't express enough how grateful I am for your time, your comments, your encouragements, and the quiet ways you've supported me throughout this year To my viewers, friends, and my subscribers, you've made this creative journey one of the best gifts I could have ever asked for. Through every painting, sketch, and story, you've reminded me why I fell in love with art in the first place. And thank you so very much. And here he is, Gennosuke Murakami, painted in gouache. Man, what a journey this one has been. What a journey this whole year has been, from pencil to paint. Every step felt like a little adventure. Challenging, surprising, and honestly, just plain fun. I think that's one of the best parts about what we do here. We get to explore these absurd, wild, and wonderful worlds where samurai can be rhinos and stories can live again through color and imagination. It is why I love what I do here. The ability to take something familiar and reimagine it through my own lens, to honor the original while letting my own creativity run wild. Every time I've sat down to paint this year, it's usually started as a challenge. But somewhere along the way, it always turns into an adventure, one filled with curiosity, wonder, and joy. The same feelings we've embraced so freely as kids. I hope we never lose sight of that, or let it slip away just because we've got a few more grays in our crowns. That sense of play, that spark of imagination, is exactly what artists like Sakai captured so beautifully in his world of Usagi Yojimbo. His stories remind us that even the worlds of samurai, bounty hunters, and talking animals, there's room for heart, humor, and honor. This painting, this little tribute, is my way of celebrating that childlike awe and wonder, and the incredible gift of storytelling that continues to inspire artists like me decades later. To everyone who's been part of this journey, I want to thank you. You've made this year unforgettable. And this is what Arts of the Round Table is all about. Honoring history, celebrating imagination, and finding joy in the process. Thank you so much for watching. Merry Christmas, everybody. If you enjoyed this piece, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with someone who loves art as much as you do. Prints of this and many of my other works are available now on my Etsy store. Perfect for you or someone you love this holiday season. And every purchase helps support my continued journey to become a full-time artist. It's Arts of the Round Table. My name is Mello. Merry Christmas. God bless you. Be creative. And until the next one, I'll draw you later. Bye-bye.